Guys, welcome to IB7 Economist. This video here is going to be a short one. It's going to cover some basics in macroeconomics. If you're from Vic Park, this is stuff you would have covered in grade 10 and maybe the first few days in the macro unit in grade 11. Every macro policy is in some way trying to satisfy the 5 macroeconomic goals. You'll find that oftentimes a policy will satisfy one of the goals while possibly making another one worse. Number 1. Low levels of unemployment. The government always wants the percentage of the labor force that is unemployed to be low because unemployment has a general negative effect on society. Number 2. Price stability. The government wants to maintain a controlled increase in the price level. In other words, controlled inflation. This is measured by the CPI. Number 3. Economic growth. Economic growth is defined as an increase in national output, or in other words, an increase in GDP. Number 4, economic development, an improvement of the standard of living and also an equitable distribution of income. Number 5, external equilibrium. This one refers to a balance of payments and a stable currency. An important term that will come up a lot when studying macro is GDP. GDP is the gross domestic product and it is defined as the total of all economic activity in a country. Another measurement to know is the GNP, also known as GNI, which is the gross national product or income. This refers to the total income earned by a country's factors of production, regardless of the location. The difference between these two measurements lies in the location. If a Chinese company opened a factory in Canada, its output would be counted towards the Canadian GDP, but Chinese GNP. It's also important to note the imperfections in GDP and GNI. These measurements do not take into account the depreciation of capital. For example, if you have a piano, the older the piano gets, the more value it loses. The net national income, NNI, is equal to GNI minus depreciation value. Another factor that we need to address is inflation. The term nominal GDP refers to GDP not adjusted for inflation. Real GDP is equal to nominal GDP adjusted for inflation. The formula for GDP can be boiled down to GDP is equal to C, consumption, plus I, investment, plus G, government, plus X, exports, minus M, imports. How do these factors fit into the economy? Well, for that, we have to look at the circular flow of income. So if we look at the relationship between firms and households, we can see that firms provide households with goods and services. In exchange for that, households give firms money, which is known as consumption, the C component of GDP. For firms to produce goods, households provide firms with the factors of production, while firms give households wages in return. Aside from households and firms, there are 3 other external components: government, financial institutes, and the foreign sector. Any money that goes towards these components is known as leakages, because money is going out of the household-firm cycle. Any money that goes from these components to the firms, yes, only firms, they don't directly contact households, is known as injections. When injections are greater than leakages, the economy expands, and vice versa. When leakages are greater than injections, the economy contracts. Money that goes towards the government is known as taxes. In return, the government invests in firms and helps the economy grow. This is known as G, government spending. We put savings into financial institutions and out comes investments, I. We give imports, M, to the foreign sector and they give us exports, X. The injection factors make up the GDP. An important point to note here is that taxes don't necessarily equal government spending. If T is greater than G, then the government is running a budget surplus. If T is less than G, then we've got a budget deficit. Same goes for savings and investment and imports and exports. If M is greater than X, then we've got a trade deficit. If M is less than X, then there is a trade surplus. I feel like this is a good time to stop for the basics of macro. The next step here is to go into the neoclassical model of the economy. So come here to check out our next video on that. Thank you for watching this video on IB7 Economist. We hope you enjoyed. See you next time. And good luck surviving the IB wilderness.